everyone, my name's Nancy Shah. I'm the director of the Florham Park Library. I am here today to do a little bit of book talk with you all. I'm going to recommend a few book titles to you that you might find interesting. They're books that I've read recently that I really enjoyed. And a few books that I've read not so recently that I've really enjoyed. I think that during this time when we're all sheltering in place and staying at home, books that offer us an escape into a different historical era, or maybe into a different perspective, maybe into a different place in our country or in the world, are books that really appeal to me. So I'm going to start with two books, one a little bit older, one a little bit newer. I'll start with the old book. So this is The Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. It won the Pulitzer Prize back in, I want to say like 2010, sometime around then. And it's a story told in two different perspectives. One is from a sort of geek who's down on his luck, hopeless romantic, living in Paterson, New Jersey, but he's of Dominican heritage, and he goes sort of back and forth between the Dominican Republic and the present time. And then also his roommate, who narrates the majority of the book, who is sort of like a jock type, also of Dominican heritage, who's like an actual Casanova type who kind of bullies Oscar Wilde, the main character, and it's full of machismo, and it's got a kind of Spanglish language in it, and it kind of flip-flops. It's very playful linguistically, and it talks about New Jersey culture and Dominican culture, and it also about the history of the Dominican Republic. And it's just really a fascinating read. It's funny, it's heartbreaking, you'll learn something new, and it's really just one of those books that's hard to put down once you pick it up. And then this is a more recent book, Fiebre Tropical by Juliana Delgado Lopera, another Latinx author, just like Juno Diaz here. Lopera's novel, where this one was really masculine, this is filled with female voices. It takes place in Miami in an immigrant community. It's got queer voices in it as well. It's got a lot of sort of mysticism in it. There's a whole narrative about an evangelical community down there that a lot of the main character's family gets involved with. And it's also very irreverent and engrossing in the way that they're written. So you'll get four really different perspectives in these two different books. But the storytelling is really just fascinating, the way that both books are put together. Another book that I would like to recommend, it's a great piece of escapism, is a book called The Heavens by Sandra Newman. So this was a really weird book. It kind of flew under the radar last year. It didn't get a lot of attention, but is one of my favorite books that I've read in the last couple of months. It takes place in New York City, but on sort of like an alternate history, and it's told from the perspective of a young woman who, when she goes to sleep, she dreams that she is a woman living in Elizabethan era, in the Elizabethan era, who is sort of like a fringe member of Queen Elizabeth I's court, and she gets to know Shakespeare, and hijinks sort of ensue. But then the woman who is the quote-unquote real character is living in this alternate timeline in New York where everything is utopian and beautiful, and the more she dreams and the more she falls into her dreams, the more interested she gets in the past, and then also the sort of worse the present becomes in her current situation in New York. And it has these two, and sort of in her dreaming, she changes history and reality. And again, kind of an odd book, but really hard to put down. It was an easy read. It's really a page turner. It's not filled with too much complex language or anything, but if you're into time travel and history and also fantasy, that might be a good book for you. And finally, I want to recommend Hilary Mantel's trilogy that began with the book Wolf Hall. So she finally just finished her third and final installment of that trilogy called The Mirror and the Light. But you definitely have to start with Wolf Hall. The second book is called Bring Up the Bodies, and it also takes place in the Tudor era, but in the court of Henry VIII in England. And Mantel tells the story of Thomas Cromwell, his sort of rise to influence and power during that time. And the really interesting thing about her books are that she writes with granular detail, and yet there's still so much mystery and intrigue in the books that it really keeps you turning the pages. So, you know, you get all kinds of detail about the Reformation in England, and about the you know, establishment of the Church of England, and all this sort of nitty-gritty things about politics of that time, which would ordinarily be really dry material, I think, for your average non-history buff reader. But just something about it, about the way that she writes and the amount of flesh she puts on all of her characters, just makes it absolutely such a treat to read. So if you're looking for something a little more thoughtful, quiet, introspective, that's a really great read for you guys as well. So I hope you enjoyed my suggestions. If you want to hear some more suggestions from me and from other readers in the Florham Park community, come to Book Talk. It's going to be at 6 p.m. every Monday night. We meet virtually, and we just sit around and share book recommendations with each other. So I really hope you will join us. You can just send a quick email to reference@florhamparklive.org in order to sign up and get the link to participate. I hope to see you there.